Hey guys, it's Miss Schaefer, and today we're starting our new unit on ecosystems. And today we're going to talk about ecosystems and biotic factors. So, Earth is full of living things. Our planet has many kinds of organisms, including bacteria, fungi like mushrooms, plants, and animals. In some ways, living things are alike. Almost all living things need water and oxygen to survive. But Earth's organisms are also different from each other. For example, bacteria are simple one-celled organisms, while plants and animals are complex organisms made of many cells. Plants can make their own food, but animals eat other organisms for energy. So that should be kind of a review of our um, unit that we just finished. So that should sound familiar. The characteristics of an organism determine how it interacts with the living and non-living things in its ecosystem. But what are some of the living and non-living parts of an ecosystem? What are the ways that organisms interact with these parts of the ecosystem? Interactions with the living things in an ecosystem. A squirrel runs onto the forest floor to find an acorn. It carefully watches for predators such as hawks and foxes. Soon it finds an acorn and hides it in a dead tree trunk. When a chipmunk tries to steal the acorn, the squirrel chases the chipmunk away. The living things that the squirrel interacts with are called biotic factors. A biotic factor is anything made up of cells. This includes organisms with just one cell, such as bacteria and some kinds of fungi. It also includes organisms with many cells, such as plants and animals. Biotic factors may be a non-moving part of the ecosystem, such as a tree. Other biotic factors may move through an ecosystem, such as migrating birds. Anything that is alive or used to be alive is biotic. A squirrel is a biotic factor. It is made up of cells and it is alive. The dead tree trunk is also a biotic factor. The tree is made up of cells and used to be alive. Organisms interact with the biotic factors in their ecosystem to get food, energy, and other resources that help them survive. In the example above, the squirrel collected an acorn for food. It used a tree trunk to hide its food, and it looked out for predators and chased off other animals that were competing for its food source. The squirrel's ecosystem is also made up of non-living parts. Organisms interact with the non-living parts of their ecosystem to get food, energy, and other resources that help them survive. The non-living parts of the ecosystem are called abiotic factors. Parts like the sunlight, soil, temperature, water, seasons, etc. Sunlight. Sunlight provides energy that plants and certain bacteria absorb to make their own food. This process is called photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, sunlight and carbon dioxide, CO2, combine to make glucose, C6H12O6, and oxygen, O2. Sunlight also provides heat. Some animals use the sun's heat to warm their bodies. The soil. Soil provides plants with a place to grow. It gives plants nutrients and room for their roots to grow. Soil is also home to other living things. Earthworms, prairie dogs, fungi, and some snakes live in soil. There are many types of soil. Some soil is sandy and dry. Some soil is moist and full of nutrients. The type of soil determines which organisms can live there. A cactus can grow in a sandy, dry soil because it is able to conserve water. It holds a lot of water in its stem. The plants that grow in moist soil, like marsh grasses, have shallow roots because the soil holds plenty of water that the plant roots can easily take in. Temperature. The temperature of an ecosystem affects what kind of organisms can live there. Some living things are able to live in cold ecosystems. These organisms usually have characteristics that keep their bodies warm. For example, some rabbits grow longer, thicker fur in the winter. Organisms that live in hot ecosystems have characteristics that help them stay cool. Many animals that live in hot deserts have very short fur year-round. Water. All living things need water to survive. Plants, animals, and other organisms need to absorb water to stay healthy. Some organisms use water as a habitat. For example, fish, whales, seaweed, and other aquatic organisms live in water. Some animals, like frogs, lay their eggs in water. Seasons. A change in seasons brings a change in temperature and the amount of daily sunlight. This abiotic factor is an important signal for many processes. The change from winter to spring signals some organisms to wake up from hibernation. Spring and summer is when most organisms start to breed or produce young. Fall weather lets some organisms know it's time to migrate to warmer areas. Look at the photograph below. What biotic and abiotic factors can you identify? Describe as many as you can. How are the biotic and abiotic factors interacting? So I want you to think about that for a minute. Think about what things in this picture are biotic factors and which are abiotic factors. And you can pause the video if you need to. And then I want you to think about how biotic and abiotic factors are interacting. So what I see as a biotic factor is the pink flamingos. I see plants. I see different grasses. For the abiotic factors, I see sunlight shining on them. I see the water that they're wading in. I see the dirt and mud. I can assume that it's probably a warm temperature. And so how these biotic and abiotic factors are interacting, well, the pink flamingos, they need the water to drink. They probably eat some of the vegetation or the other organisms that live in the water. They probably use the plants and trees to maybe get shade at time, and the temperature keeps them healthy and keeps them living in that area. So roles of organisms in a habitat. So first, a habitat is a place in which an organism usually lives and grows. For example, a squirrel may live in a forest habitat. A fish may live in a pond habitat. An organism has a special role in its habitat. The role of an organism is called its niche and is determined by how the organisms interact with biotic and abiotic factors. For example, a strawberry plant makes its own food in a process called photosynthesis. This process also produces oxygen. The strawberry plant provides food energy and oxygen to other biotic factors in its ecosystem. Animals can eat the strawberry plants and breathe the oxygen. The strawberry plant also interacts with the abiotic factors in its ecosystem. It uses the energy in sunlight and the nutrients and water in the soil to survive. The strawberry plant is not the only plant in its ecosystem. There are other plants around it that also need soil, water, and sunlight. The amount of soil and sunlight is limited. This leads to competition. The strawberry plant competes with other plants for the soil and sunlight in its ecosystem. The amount of available sunlight determines how many plants can grow in one area. Since animals rely on plants for food, the amount of sunlight also determines how many animals can live there. The natural world is organized into several levels. To understand how the natural world is organized, think first about how your world is organized. Your home is part of a neighborhood. Several neighborhoods make up your city or town. Many cities and towns make up a state, and states are part of a country. Hundreds of countries make up the world. The human world is organized from small to large. The natural world is organized in a similar way. A single organism is the first and smallest level of organization. A population is the second level of organization. A population is a group of the same species of organisms. So in this picture if we had just a picture of one deer, that would be the organism. But what I have here is a picture of population. It's a group of the same species. These are all the same type of deer. The third level of organization is a community. A community is made up of several populations of different species. So, in this picture, we have not only zebras, a population of zebras, we have a population of giraffes. If it was a detailed picture, maybe we'd have a population of birds, or if it was zoomed out, a population of fish in the water. So, a community is all the different populations. And an ecosystem is the fourth level of organization. As you learned earlier in this lesson, an ecosystem is made up of all the living and non-living things in an area. So if you look at this picture, we see a lot of living things. We see a tree, we see grass, we see birds, we see fish, we see some aquatic plants under here, maybe even a turtle, maybe. It was kind of hard to see. But we also see non-living things, abiotic factors. We see wind because the birds are able to stay in the air. We see sunlight, the water itself, the temperature, all of those things are abiotic. And so both of these are considered an ecosystem. Finally, the biosphere is made up of all the ecosystems on Earth.